Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Brent Venables, Jim Nagy, the Oklahoma Sooners, they are starting to get the ball rolling as it pertains to the 2026 class, landing another commitment late Thursday night. And I'll tell you this right now, there's not much I'd rather be doing than breaking down Oklahoma football commits because I am fascinated to see how Jim Nagy decides to go about his business building this Oklahoma roster specifically in this 2026 cycle. If there's one thing I've picked up on in terms of the commitments we've seen roll in terms of the targets that we've seen emerge for Oklahoma, we're getting ball players, guys that, yeah, maybe need some more physical development, but we are going after guys that we think can be very good football players in the next 2 to 3 years. They might not necessarily be the most polished football players or SEC ready football players as we sit right now. You talk about developmental upside. Jim Nagy's leaning into the developmental upside of some of these young kids coming to Oklahoma. Jakori Smith, to me, kind of embodies what Jim Nagy's looking for. At 6 foot, a buck 90, like he needs to develop that frame if he's going to play off-ball linebacker in the SEC for Oklahoma. This kid flies around the football field, and quite frankly, has some real physicality to his game, even though he's only 190 pounds. And these type of linebacker prospects are some of my personal favorites. The guys that might be undersized but have the requisite speed and athleticism. You look at where the sport's going. Like, if you're an off-ball linebacker in whatever conference, whether it's the Big Ten, whether it's the SEC, gone are the days where you're just playing in a phone booth, like between the tackles. You have to go sideline to sideline. You have to tackle playmakers in space. You look at where college football offenses are going, it's all about speed and space. And if you don't have backers that can run, chase, and tackle, it's going to be tough to play good defense in this era of college football. Jakori Smith, although undersized, this dude flies around, makes a lot of football plays. He has the frame, to get up to 220, 230 pounds. He ain't ever going to be the biggest linebacker that you see in the SEC, but he has some serious closing speed. He's got some serious playmaking ability in space. I think that's what Jim Nagy's leaning into here. Before we get into a little bit of the film and kind of talking about where Oklahoma is going, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Oklahoma fans. Look, I'm fired up for this summer and this Oklahoma program, more to just kind of see how Jim Nagy decides to operate. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And I'll start with this. These are the kind of linebackers that I like to see coming out of high school. Look, you get Jakori Smith into this Oklahoma program, get him in the weight. He's going to get up to 220 pounds like that. Like, these kids gain so much weight during their first 6-12 months on campus. Jakori Smith is going to get the size on him eventually. Quite frankly, reminds me a little bit of Kip Lewis coming out of high school. Like, Kip Lewis, undersized linebacker. And quite frankly, Kip Lewis is still not the biggest linebacker for Oklahoma going into 2025, but he's a guy that we expect to be one of the better players on this Oklahoma defense. I look at Jakori Smith and say probably similar, I should say, developmental arc. The first 12 months for this kid on Oklahoma's campus probably just going to be in the weight room and eating burritos, getting that body right to play linebacker in the SEC. But when he does put on the weight the right way, get that physicality where it needs to be to play in the SEC, he's going to be a juiced up kid, and he's going to fly around the football field, make a lot of plays. And you look at Oklahoma and how they want to use their linebackers, they want them flying around the football field. One thing I'll say, and look, y'all know I am 5'8", a buck 65 dripping wet. I tell people I'm 5'9", but truthfully, I'm 5'8", between you and I. But if I were a stud linebacker at the high school ranks, what are you doing not going to Norman, Oklahoma? With Brent Venables as your head ball coach, with who I think is one of the better young defensive coaches we see in the country, Nate Drelling. Got James Skalski in there too. This is a staff that is very linebacker-centric on the defensive side of the football. You want to get developed the right way, you better be taking your butt to Norman, Oklahoma. And that's kind of what excites me with some of the linebackers that Oklahoma is going after. Like, give us the raw potential. We know we have the coaching staff to get these kids right. Yeah, that's a fun combination. Jakori Smith. I feel like we haven't really gotten into Jakori Smith that much. Let's just turn on a little bit of the junior year, get a sense of what we're getting. Speed, speed, and speed. I mean, this is a guy that flies around the football field, finds the football. That's what you want. I mean, look at his ability to close the distance between himself and the ball carrier. Whether it's going sideline to sideline, whether it's triggering downhill, whether it's picking through traffic, this dude gets there in a freaking hurry. And I'll say this, for a $190, like he ain't really lacking physicality at the point of attack. Now, you see instances where you want to see him stack some blocks a little bit better. I don't think that has to do with his physicality, because when you're watching him go out and tackle, he doesn't really lack it. I think there's a little bit more. Again, he just closes so fast, which I think excites you the most, and probably what excites Brent Venables the most. Again, sideline to sideline, looking for the football, trying to be a playmaker, getting the ball knocked out. Like, we're looking for that, and any of our players on this Oklahoma defense continue to work through it, and you continue to see him. The best way to describe it is, fly around the field and always be around the football, which is like the rudimentary goal of being an off-ball linebacker. Run, chase, and tackle, baby. And that is what Jakori Smith does. Now, here's the example of, hey, I want you to be a little bit more physical, taking on blocks, kind of getting caught up in the traffic a little bit, but we're a good enough athlete to go hawk the ball carrier. You want to see him be a little bit more aggressive when he's taking on some of those blocks, but it really does not lack any athleticism in terms of flying around the football field. This is it. I mean, this is what you're looking for. You need linebackers to go make these kind of plays and go sideline to sideline. Jakori Smith can do that. You look at Oklahoma in 2026, we've seen, I believe, 2 Jim Nagy commitments so far, and you've seen them from Nico Drandrio, who we talked about the other day, and you've seen him from Jakori Smith. Like, 2 guys that, I think Nico, there's a good chance Nico plays off-ball linebacker too. He's a 6', 185 right now, but he's wired like a linebacker from what I could tell in the film. We want these guys that, yeah, maybe they're a little bit small right now, but we want guys that can put on some weight and go fly around and make some plays. The other 2 linebackers to kind of look at, Bo Drandrio, obviously Nico's twin brother, a little bit more put together, 6'1", 215, very similar football player to his twin, kind of like a Tasmanian devil. And I'm getting a call right now, so we're gonna have to button that. Last linebacker on the board, I think, Talona Illy. I mean, I know this is it sounds like it's USC right now. Man, I look at what Oklahoma has to offer in terms of developmental linebackers and developing linebackers. Talona Illy seems like a very good option for Oklahoma, one of my favorite backers in the class. Going to be really fun next couple of weeks. The commitments are slowly starting to trickle in. We'll kind of break them down as we go. We're going to be breaking down all of these commitments with one kind of overarching perspective, and that is what's Jim Nagy doing? What's the plan? Because at times it felt like from Brent Venables before Jim Nagy, we were kind of just throwing darts at the dartboard. I'm going to guess there's going to be a little bit more of a focus in terms of how we want to build this roster, what kind of players we want to do that with. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.